Luocha is here, and I've got just enough to say about him that passes the 8-minute mark. One of the most outstanding combinations of a character I've ever seen HoYoverse deliver both in story and gameplay. A lot of you are about to be rewarded for skipping Silverwolf, and some of you will be further enticed to pull for this character. But right now, let's break down Luocha's impressive kit and go over everything you'll need to make this dedicated lover boy never let you down. I don't know why I said that. That was so lame. Jumping right into the meat of his abilities, we'll start with his skill. Prayer of the Abyss Flower. Prayer of Abyss Flat. Isn't that supposed, like, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to read prayer of the, you know what, whatever, doesn't matter. His skill is the bread of his kit. After using this, Luocha immediately restores an absurd amount of HP to any ally while also gaining 1 stack of Abyss Flower. And when I said absurd, I meant it. Upon my first test for the character without any investments in his skill or gear, the guy easily cracked a healing number well over 1000 HP for my Ting Yun. If that's not enough, his skill also comes with a secondary passive. Whenever an ally's HP drops to 50% or below, he's automatically going to use his skill without consuming a skill point in order to heal them. Yes, this has a 2-turn cooldown, but I'll teach you a way around that later on in the video. Before we move away from his skill though, I want to briefly mention his trace named Cleansing Revival. Read this bit right here. When the skill's effect is triggered, what this means is that whenever the skill pops, whether that be automatic or manual, it will cleanse a target ally of a single debuff they've stacked against them. Now, contrary to cleansing your teammates, his ultimate's gonna hold the effect to remove a buff from all allies on the field, not just one, all of them, on top of dealing imaginary damage and imprisoning them if their weakness broken. This ultimate also gives him a single stack of the Abyss Flower. And now I've mentioned that phrase a few times now, Abyss Flower. This is gonna come from his talent Cycle of Life, which is basically the butter of his kit, huh? You know, get it like the bread and butter of the kit, because I said earlier that it was the bread and now. After gaining 2 stacks of flowers, Luocha is automatically going to deploy a Yu-Gi-Oh! Feldspell and produce a vampiric effect. This technique heals any ally that attacks an enemy for a decent percentage of Luocha's own attack. It only lasts for 2 turns, but there is a slight way we can manipulate this for an extra turn as well as lengthen it overall. I'll go over that momentarily, but for now, I want to point out another one of his traces named Sanctify, which technically completes this talent and turns it into the only healing you'll ever need in the game for the foreseeable future. Instead of the single attacking ally gaining the vampiric effect during Cycle of Life's field, now everyone on the team is going to receive the vampiric effect no matter who attacks. Keeping a Cycle of Life in mind, there are a few key things to note about his field. First, he can't stack any more Abyss Flowers while the field is active, meaning some form of resource or skill management should be kept in mind when autopiloting this character. Second, activating the field will not reset any cooldowns, making it more important to take advantage of that bonus trace Sanctify before using Luocha's skill. Lastly, while his auto skill has the ability to cleanse an ally, it will not automatically cleanse them just because they're afflicted with some debuff. Unless they reach 50% or below HP threshold to trigger his skill, you will need to manually cleanse them each and every time. Now, if I were going to give some advice on prioritizing which traces to level up, I would order them this way. The choice between his skill or talent are equally valuable to me. For me though, I will level up his talent first because I plan on building teams that take advantage of Cycle of Life's vampiric effect more often than using the skill. This is interchangeable with the skill, however, and it doesn't mean that his talent is better or worse than using the skill. It's honestly just personal preference. Next, after those two, I would start investing in his bonus traces. The first being Sanctify and the second being Cleansing Revival. I'd move into the 2 attack paths following those, and then I'd aim for his final trace through the valley. I believe this trace is amazing, but with the use of his signature 4-star light cone, it's not as critical to me. It's just that the resources required to break the level 80 ascension on top of actually giving him the materials for once he gets that bonus effect, it's just way too much in my opinion. And I would rather put that time or energy or anything like that into buffing up Yukong or Welt or any other character to get them to level 70. Finally, I would invest into his ultimate. My main reason for picking his ultimate last is because it's a damaging ult, and to be frank, I'm not using his ultimate for the damage. I'm using it for the enemy debuffs and gaining an Abyss Flower to trigger his talent. Earlier I mentioned extending the duration of his Yu-Gi-Oh field spell, and for this example, we can continue to treat it like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. And I'm telling you this now so that you don't have to wait longer in the video for it. I'm not going to get super in depth with the gear until I actually get to the relic and light cone section later. At face value, your Luocha is aiming to achieve the 3-turn ultimate rotation. Ideally, this consists of 2 basic attacks, a skill, and then an ultimate. That's going to give you the 2 Abyss Flowers and a full ultimate effect, which is going to trigger Cycle of Life during Luocha's turn. That last part is important. The reason you want to activate the field spell during his turn is because Luocha won't lose a turn count if Cycle of Life is deployed during his physical turn. This basically gives you a full free turn for Cycle of Life until his next action. And I know that sounds easy enough to do, but it might not be accessible to everyone without certain things. For my usual viewers, you guys know I've been a heavy advocate for pulling on the light cone banner in some way, shape, or form. This 3-turn ultimate can only be achieved with a specific set of light cones because you need an extra 15% ERR, which is energy regeneration rate, on top of the gold rope, which is also the energy regeneration rope. Energy regeneration rope. There we go. I know English. The 2 light cones in question: Echoes of the Coffin, which is his 5-star signature light cone that you can pull for now, and then an S2 or higher post-op conversion, which is the one that has Natasha's face on it. That's her signature light cone. You also need the maxed out gold energy regeneration rope I mentioned earlier, and you're gonna need Sprightly Von Quack's planar set, at least for those particular things that I just mentioned. To further extend on this, you don't want a bunch of speed. 19 extra speed points gives you the 120 stat to activate certain planar ornament passives without Musketeer's 4-piece bonus, but 1 pair of speed boots will let Luocha have 2 actions every 3rd turn cycle or so. The concept of this allows you to keep the field up as long as possible without actually needing to take turns gaining flowers or using a skill on your ally when they have max HP anyway. Now, with all of that out of the way, I want to cover the details of his gear. Let's go over the relics. This section should be fairly simple and clean to explain. His best set as of right now will be Musketeer of the Wild Wheat for the attack percent increase. This also aids in the longer Cycle of Life field concept that I mentioned earlier. With a full Musketeer set, this would give you speed without actually needing the speed boots. And if you're looking for a specific number, you would need somewhere around exactly 114 speed before Musketeer to do this without speed boots. Now, in the event you do run speed boots, I found myself becoming a fan of a 2-piece set featuring Musketeer and Wastelander, or Musketeer and Passerby. It's nothing super special, it's just that I find the speed boots with Musketeer's 4-piece bonus being a little too much speed for my desired outcome. I genuinely suggest playing around with both ideas and deciding which one you enjoy the most and then going with that. As far as the planar ornaments go, I believe neither of these 3 are the best, quote unquote, and instead it's based on personal preference to what best fits your team. Sprightly Von Quack is necessary to net that 3-turn ultimate rotation. Space Sealing Station is more so for his personal damage and overall increase in his outgoing healing. Lastly, Fleet of the Ageless is going to give him a little bit extra beefiness, and it'll boost the overall team damage output. You honestly can't go wrong with any of these options. His kit is insanely versatile. For the main stats, it's pretty straightforward. You're looking for outgoing healing on the body, attack or speed boots on the actual boots. I don't know why I said boots twice, but you're looking for attack or speed boosts depending on how you want to run Luocha. Imaginary Orb is for more personal damage, and the attack percent orb is for overall increase in healing effect. Lastly, you're shooting for that energy regeneration rope for netting those 3-turn rotations. As far as your sub stats go, you're aiming to prioritize attack percent, speed, defensive stats, and then break effect. Luocha's pretty squishy without it, so getting the HP percent or defense percent or even the effect resistance pieces for your sub stats won't do him any harm. In fact, it'll help him out a lot more than you think. For the best light cones to use, this section might be a little controversial for a lot of you that are new to my channel. I don't personally advocate or believe any of the free-to-play options are anywhere near his best options. If the only light cones you have available are Quid Pro Quo and Cornucopia, then use them. Luocha can make do just fine, but will lack the optimal setups and output. Echoes of the Coffin is technically his best in slot. but to be 100% valid, you don't even need this. Everything about his light cone signature wise is great. The speed on the ultimate for the one turn is awesome, but it's such a minuscule difference in his overall performance that an S2 post-op is a conversation. That's crazy. I've been saying conversion this whole time. Post-op conversation. An S2 or higher post-op conversation will give you insanely close results. An S4 or higher will do even better. Getting an S4 or higher post-op conversation will actually make it so that you don't need to use Sprightly Von Quack for your planar ornaments. And at that point, your best options become Space Healing Station or Fleet of the Ageless. Last of the light cones that I have is Perfect Timing, which is a great alternative to those that can't net the 3-turn ultimate rotation right now. The effect resistance and the increased outgoing healing through the effect resistance is going to be such a wonderful touch. This is also going to help those who don't or can't unlock the level 80 ascension to get that final trace. Superimposing this to 5 was going to give you an increase of 32% effect resistance and an overall increase into your healing off of 45% of the effect resistance. Plus, you can see Jing Yuan in the back of the light cone. That's badass. Finally, we're at one of my favorite parts of any of the guys that I ever do, team building. Luocha is, to no one's surprise, an amazingly compatible character with almost everyone in the game as of right now. In fact, it's safe for me to say he works with 98% of the cast across the board. I'm sure you're asking yourself, who are the 2% he doesn't work with? And I would challenge you to answer that in the comments section below. If you guess it within the first hour of the video being live, I'll even gift you a membership to the channel. You gotta timestamp it with this exact timestamp though, otherwise it doesn't count. I know a lot of my peers have mentioned Luocha works with pretty much everyone by now, but I'm here to tell you, while that may be true mostly, he actually does have some preferred teammates and comps he'd like to be a part of. The first that comes to mind was Luocha benefits the most from offensive units. These are going to be characters that attack frequently or have some form of turn manipulation. Characters like Zila, Su Shang, or even Dan Heng really fit the bill for this. As far as support characters go, Bronya will technically buff Luocha's healing with her ultimate, but you really don't need it like at all. Nihility characters, on the other hand, will absolutely love Luocha. The combination of Nihility plus Luocha will enable more hyper offensive double DPS teams that I've referred to in previous videos before that straight up overpower every enemy in the game with raw speed and power. Pela, Silverwolf, Welt, even Kafka in the future would significantly benefit from having Luocha on the team compared to someone like Bailu or even Japard. Lastly would be characters with follow-up attacks, similarly, or not similarly, but exactly like Clara and Himiko, who absolutely love Luocha. Jing Yuan, Serval, all of them love Luocha for the simple fact that his Sanctify trace is a main benefactor to keeping their HP healthy and alive while dishing out consistent damage to everyone on the field. Luocha is so flexible that you actually have to work really hard to make him not work on any team. But remember that 2% I mentioned earlier? The only characters I believe don't want Luocha as a teammate, at least at the time of this video's release, are Arlen and Yanqing, one of those which I also don't have on my account. Arlen because he wants to get as close to 1 HP without dying as often as possible, and Luocha's kit literally works against that principle without any form of your control. You could decide to play the entire game without using his skill and Luocha will still auto heal Arlen. Yanqing, on the other hand, can work with Luocha, but Yanqing much more prefers a shielder in order to keep him from taking damage and losing his empathic sword link. Now, in the event you build a team with Yanqing and Luocha and then Yanqing never gets hit, then yeah, that would be awesome for his freeze-based kit. But for me personally, I've never actually had that happen. I mean, we can literally look at Ting Yun as an example. She's not a preservation character and she takes the most punches to the face. Now, super quick, the Eidolons are something none of you should actually be bothered or concerned with. Now, I don't mean that they're not great. They are fantastic. Luocha is a character that works completely fine at E0, and these are the type of characters that I love. E0 is the complete package. There's nothing else that you need outside of E0. However, if you want to make him even stronger, then we get into Eidolons. For E1, you're going to be looking at something that's overall going to benefit the team by increasing their damage by 20% across the board. E2 is a little cool because what this is going to do is add on to the fact of what his skill does or what his field does. So instead of only healing you if you have above 50% HP, not only is it going to increase his outgoing healing by a significant amount, it's also going to be able to give the ally a shield when their HP is over 50%. The shield's not going to be a lot compared to someone like Japar or even March 7. So think closer to Fire MC, but the damage, rather the multiplier on the shield, is actually a little bit higher, probably a lot more higher than Fire MC. So I think it works out in his favor. E4 is going to help him get closer to this even like further hybrid role where he actually weakens the enemy and reduces their damage being done by 12%. The 12% might not seem like a lot, but when you have seen stuff from Silverwolf calcs and you've seen what the game has to hold at this level 70 or higher floors for MOC, you know that they hit hard. Reducing their attack damage by any amount is always going to be helpful. Last but not least is going to be E6. Now this Eidolon is cracked. It basically takes what Silverwolf already does, which is reducing their all type resistance and removing any vulnerabilities that the characters might have to a certain element. This reduces all of them by 20%, making Luocha some form of a Silverwolf mixed with himself, I guess, but it's truly amazing. I'm not personally pulling for this though. If anything, I would say E1 is my complete stopping point. If I accidentally get E1, that's cool, but I would not purposely shoot for more Eidolons higher than an E1 Luocha. I think the rest of them are great. I just don't think it's worth what you're pulling for. But I know some of you are crazy out there, so if you go for E6, let me know in the comments down below. I want to see it and I want to test it. But that's it. Hopefully you all enjoyed this guide on Luocha and how I personally feel about the character. While I wasn't desperate to push MOC with him, I found myself enjoying him on the team a lot more with my more aggressive playstyle, solely because of the passive healing being so damn good. It really lets me press the W key without having to double back a lot of the time. Luocha will absolutely benefit free-to-play players and even the spenders who have been cracking out on late game MOC. If you enjoyed this video, do feel free to like or comment down below, share with your friends, all that fun stuff. We're trying to grow every day. Join the Discord, follow me on Twitch because I'm trying to hit partner over there. And if you want to help me get E6 Yukong, just kind of like super chat down below. I mean, the game really just don't love me right now. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Smell you later.